Payments Podcast from Bottomline Technologies.
This year, the world's leading treasury event did things a little differently. With the current worldwide pandemic, Eurofinance went 100% virtual, and for the very first time. The event still included a vast amount of sessions designed to keep treasurers and banks up to date and one step ahead of trends leading into 2021. And today, we'll discuss those top trends to take away from this year's event. Hello, I'm Rich Williams, host of the Payments Podcast, and today I'm delighted to be joined by Charles Derouge, Head of SaaS Solutions at Bottomline. Hello, Charles. Bienvenue, and welcome to the Payments Podcast for the very first time.
Hello, Rich, and thanks for having me.
Very welcome, very welcome. So let's go straight into it then. Now, this year's Eurofinance was very different to how it would have been run normally. So how did you personally find this year's entirely virtual event?
Yeah, is there anything normal anymore, Rich, on those troubled time of, pandemic? At Bottomline, we took quite a radical approach, which is attending Eurofinance virtual event just as it was a physical event. So our team put their out of office on. We went full on virtual Eurofinance. And I have to say, personally, it was my first positive experience for a virtual event. We had a lot of very senior contact present on the session and answering emails and contact. We have attended a few virtual conferences since March, but there was a different feeling about Eurofinance. I think Eurofinance remains the most important event of the year for Treasury, and the tools were much better. The portals worked very well intuitively, and there was a lot of positivity about the event, and the delegate seems to be taking it very seriously.
So, Charles, what were some of the key themes that came up in this year's event, please?
There were more than 4,000 delegates registered, and I think we saw that Treasury professionals continue to maintain their industry network and connection with the financial messaging ecosystem through Eurofinance, virtual or not. Well, Rich, as usual, there were a multitude of very interesting topics covered at Eurofinance, from supply chain finance to FX hedging new methodology. But the topic was, of course, COVID. And I think that the number one consequences from the virus to Treasury was acceleration of the previous key themes and natural tendencies. If I have to summarize the important key themes that come up at Eurofinance this week, I would say they were under three main categories: people, product, process.
And that's really interesting because Bottomline have been talking about that trifecta of people, process, and technology for several years now. So the synergy between the two is apparent, and I think we can agree that digitize or die is quite a bold topic to be discussing. So
people is still at the heart of everything in Treasury. With the COVID pandemic and the evolution of Treasury function, with the remote working and the security access, people with the well-being of your people in a team, that was at the heart of a number of sessions. What we have seen also is the new skills that are required to work in Treasury functions, the variety of profiles that constitutes a Treasury team, from data analytics to technical specialists and back office or middle office finance system. Around product, the digital transformation is always at the top of everything we do. There was one session named Digitalize or Die that I thought was quite interesting. Product is mainly and more than ever based on user interface. Product is based on data and real-time data. There are new ways and better ways to integrate the different systems, ERP, treasury management systems, and banks. We are progressing towards API, the application program interface. I think it's the future. We keep talking about it, but we're not there yet with a bank perspective. At Bottomline, we have developed our own REST API to support Swift traffic, payment instructions, and we keep developing this. So at the heart of the product, the digital transformation, user interface, data, and of course, artificial intelligence and robot process automation are still key themes. And the process, more than ever, cash and liquidity are essential. It's back to basics. Where's my cash? How much cash do I have? During the COVID, suddenly all the businesses needed to know how much cash they have and where it was. So cash visibility in real time, cash forecasting, and liquidity. Access to it, of course, manage your excess liquidity, which in those days of negative interest can be very difficult, manage your shortness. So I think that's still at the heart. Process is integration with multiple systems, the legacy ERP, the new ERP rollouts, the treasury management system, and bank. How do you integrate? How do you make sure you got all your data in one single platform? Is at the heart of it. And finally, as always, security. Working from home with remote access, fraud protection is more important than ever. You need to have a clear segregation of duty, of functions, and to have the right mechanism to protect your business from any attempt of fraud. It sounds radical, but I thought it was right on. This is my module, and this is why I tell our customer, it's digitalize or die. You cannot spend 1 week to retrieve your bank statement and to know how much cash you have in one branch. You cannot have like 16 different people that log into internet banking system and then put it in Excel, where you need to know if you need 30 million or 300 million of more liquidity to survive. So the ability to, at bottom line, having one platform to a PCM, permanent cash management platform, leveraging our own BIC as a service, so you don't need to be on Swift. And in a couple of weeks, you can start receiving your end of day statement and seeing your cash position almost in real time.
Absolutely, and I might challenge the use of APIs as being a future incentive. I think it's very much the present now, and we have to try and convert that and translate it from the startups and the corporates to the banking world as well. So, Charles, did you find this year's live event reflected the current landscape changes, and is there anything in particular you'd like to evolve on based on that?
No, Rich, I agree with you. API is the present. I still think that the banks are a little short on providing APIs for large multinational corporates. An API to initiate a payment or to call a cash position, a statement, today works in the small and medium business with open banking and PSD2. For large multinational corporate to support the bulk, I think we still have maybe a year of evolution until the banks are ready. Swift is moving through global API, and as I said, bottom line is now offering its own REST API to connect to Swift and to send payment instruction or retrieve statements and transactions. Um, the real, I would say yes. The Eurofinance, I think, was on the top of things. There were more than 50 hours of conferences and contents, and I think they were spot on, to be honest with you, Rich. Cash visibility in real time, the emphasis of cash flow and cash forecasting that has become critical. The importance of technology, as you said, in bottom line, it's an old mantra, but I think with the COVID crisis, the need for digital transformation has become not only a project or nice to have, it has become mandatory. And the security challenge around the importance of data and who can access which data and how can we protect. Again, those were all existing important trends, but they have become critical now. And I think the live sessions around the right technology, the right infrastructure and people, the system to system integration with API, like you say, in real time, I think all the sessions were on top of things on that.
Good, that's great to hear. So, Charles, how is the COVID pandemic specifically impacting the Treasury functions? And did the event share any examples of what's working and what isn't working?
That's a very good question, Rich. Thank you. And yes, I think the pandemic has impacted all of our lives at so many different levels, from homeschooling to home working to no more any pubs. In Treasury, it did have a serious impact. Treasury was already moving to be a strategic partner to run a business. It became systemic. It became absolutely mandatory, critical to the business. After the first weeks of the lockdown, every CFO, every CEO talk to their treasury and say, okay, what's the cash flow forecasting? How much cash do we having? Who's paying late? What is our credit facility? Can we sustain our business with no incomes, with a loan from the government? So I think the impact of COVID on Treasury has been massive. But again, I would use the word acceleration. It has accelerated a bunch of natural tendencies that exist before. So the importance for the business global success to have the Treasury functions and the role of the Treasurer to becoming a senior stakeholder, providing insight on working capital and strategic support, is in unseen time like those of the COVID have been tremendous. So I think a couple of obvious areas that again were existing trends, but that had become mandatory is cash visibility in real time. This is a need when you're a multinational with multi-bank, you need to have that. And leveraging, for example, our bottom line, our big as a service with PCM, in a couple of weeks, you can start retrieving your statement without being a member of SWIFT and start providing added value to your stakeholder. Supply chain finance with late payment, and of course, cash forecasting, were three mandatory elements that become that you cannot be in treasury and not have those information immediately. Process efficiencies and securities were the same. Again, I think all those trends were existing in the natural evolution of treasury through modernization, through digitalization. I think the COVID impact was like, we need to do it now. We need to do it this year. And even at bottom line, we saw a clear increase in the number of RFP we were solicited through the summer.
Yeah, and I think to sort of quote what you mentioned a few moments ago, some of these trends are no longer nice to haves. They're absolutely essential and they're mandatory, and we're becoming more and more keen and more, I suppose, impatient to get things done efficiently, and data and insights is absolutely key to that. So, on the same topic, do you think that these areas of interest are here to stay, or once the world gets back to whatever a state of normal is, depending on how you define normal, that some of these priorities are going to change?
Well, Rich, I believe no, they will not change. This is the new normal. The COVID has brought acceleration to an existing movement, remote access and teams from all over the world, real-time data, importance of cash visibility. None of those things are going to go away tomorrow. I think what we're going to see is more and more integration between systems, between your ERP, your treasury management system, your banks, or your local direct schemes. I think more and more we're going to see those integrated, and we're going to see this as a mandatory requirement of any business. I think they're going to be part of the audit. If you cannot provide, which they are already somehow, but if you cannot provide your cash position as yesterday, if you cannot have system to system integration with real time data, your business is at risk. So no, they're not going to change. They're going to increase. They're going to be more important, if anything.
Okay. So, what would you say are the top takeaways for Treasury professionals from this year's event, Charles?
Rich, I would say this title that still makes me laugh: "Digitalize or Die." Yeah, this is it is funny, but it is true. It is funny because it is true. The right people in Treasury, and I think that's a very interesting thing. Of not having only accountant and back office and middle office. Today, you need data specialists. You need people with technical experience to understand how to run the project. So digitalize or die. The right people in treasury, the need to centralize and control. Of course, you can give your local powers, but you need to have a centralized view of your cash flows, of your cash forecasting, of your payments, and of your cash positions. The need of integration, system to system, through API, between ERP, multi-bank, TMS. I think we're going to see more and more that you're going to have several vendors, and you can see these RFP are now segregated, but you need to integrate in a smooth and rapid way. And at the end, for me, of course, one of the key element is always the same: is how much cash do you have, where is it, and can you move it simply and safely?
Well, I think that's a great place to end the podcast today. And Charles, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts.
Thank you, Rich, for having me.
So I think that just proves that Eurofinance is always an event which provokes interesting and stimulating conversation. And it's interesting to note as well that some of the trends haven't changed this year despite going entirely digital. So unfortunately, that is all we have time for today. But in the meantime, you can listen to more episodes on all things payments at the touch of a button using your preferred provider. And we'll see you all next time.
The Payments Podcast from Bottom Line Technologies.